Hi, hello there, welcome. So, I had literally not heard of swordtember until about 2 weeks ago, and I thought it sounded really cool, and I started looking at the hashtag and I saw lots of cool like artwork, sword designs, fashion, and I got really inspired and I wanted to participate. So, instead of choosing one of the many cosplays that I've already made of sword-wielding ladies, I decided that I wanted to make something from scratch. Halfway through September. Yeah. I had also been inspired months prior by Rachel Maxey, once again, in some of her vacation photos that she posted on Instagram, where she brought some spare armor with her because, of course, who doesn't do that? And took some photos by a grotto, and they're freaking beautiful and amazing and just really badass. And I decided that swordtember would be the perfect time to try to achieve a similar aesthetic. So I have decided to start this project on a whim, and I'm going to walk you through how I did everything. So let's do the thing. Also, I got this really awesome sweatshirt from Omocat's shop, and the artwork is from Vacuum, and of course it's got some nice swords on the sleeves. I figured that would be perfect for this video, so yeah, you should go follow them on Twitter. Anyway, let's start the project! To begin, I started with a basic sketch of what I wanted the dress to look like, and from there I went to my pattern stash and went to go see what I could Frankenstein together. I ended up with these 3 patterns. I took the sleeves from this one, the longer top from this one, and the skirt from this one. After cutting out the pattern pieces and moving my cat, it was time to cut from my fabric. Everything was cut out as is, except for the sleeve, which I ended up just folding down at the top and cut it out into a big rectangle. Here's all of my pieces laid out. I pinned everything together to see how it looked and then quickly basted all the seams. The top was definitely way too long, so I marked my natural waistline and cut across. I pinned the top to the skirt and draped it on to see how it was fitting on my body. And from there, I took the top in at the waist. I basted in just a basic zipper just so I could get an idea of how it was fitting after the alterations that I did, and there was still some gapping in the center back. The side seams also needed to be taken in more at the top. Once I got the top fitted the way that I wanted, I seam ripped half of the top and used those pieces as patterns to cut out my lining. Then I went ahead and sewed the top back together as well as the lining, so I had 2 complete top pieces. I put my 2 top pieces right sides together and sewed along the top. I then ended up top stitching on the lining side, and doing this will help prevent the lining from peeking through, and it just kind of helps it stay in place. Next, I ended up sewing up the skirt, and then I pressed out all of those seams. Be sure to admire the crispiness. And I also added a gathering stitch at the top. I pulled the gathering stitch until the skirt matched my waist measurement, which will fit perfectly with the bodice top as well. I matched up those center front seams of the bodice top and the skirt, pinned and sewed. I made sure that all the gathers looked nice and that there was no off-putting puckers before proceeding to serge the center back edges so that they were nice and clean and ready for a zipper. Another thing I did was baste about ½ inch away from the edge, and that just marks my placement for my seam allowance as well as where my zipper will go. And here's how she looks so far. Moving on to the sleeves, I cut out the lining fabric and placed right sides together. I sewed along the top and the bottom, leaving the sides open. Afterwards, I turned it right side out and marked where I wanted to sew my channels. I also pinned the bottom to top stitch. Now I've got a channel at the top and towards the center. I take my elastic and begin threading it through my channels. This creates a beautiful puff sleeve. It can be worn off the shoulder or up on the shoulder, either way. Now I was ready to install the invisible zipper into the center back of the dress. A quick tip with your invisible zippers, always make sure you press out those zipper teeth with an iron so you can get really close with your stitching. A lot of invisible zippers will come with this instruction actually with the packaging. Getting as close as possible to the edge without stitching over the teeth is how you achieve a really clean and crisp invisible zipper. I lined up my zipper with the basting stitch that I made earlier and get ready to sew it into place. Using a zipper foot helps me get as close as possible to those zipper teeth, and that helps me install a nice clean zipper. At this point, I tried everything on again to check the fit of the zipper and decide the placement of the sleeves. The bodice was still looking a little bit frumpy, so I decided to take it in even more at the waist. Another alteration that I did was along the sweetheart neckline. It was still gapping a little bit and not really hugging against my chest like I wanted, so I hand sewed an ease stitch into the neckline on the lining side. And I ended up doing that from here in the center all the way towards the back so that I could gather it slightly to pull it to make this area smaller so that it would fit better to my body, but it wouldn't add a bunch of gathers and puckers that were noticeable. I learned this technique when I was doing bridal alterations a few years ago, and it's been extremely helpful for all of my garments, cosplays, costumes, and all that good stuff. It just helps you get that nice fit, especially if you got big boobies and you don't want them to fall down and you need to shape it and make sure that there's not going to be any gapping, because while this dress does have sleeves, it is technically kind of sleeveless because when you wear it off the shoulder, there's not straps to really support it, so it's really got to fit snug up here unless you want to possibly have an accident. At this point, the dress itself was done, so now it was time to mess around with this cheap costume armor that I got at a local costume store. It's actually really, really hard to find adult-sized plastic costume armor. They only make it for kids. I don't know why. Well, I guess I do know why, but more adults want plastic armor that looks nice, that's cheap, fun for LARPing and playing dress up. We still play dress up, okay? Yes. But yeah, the armor I ended up finding was made for a man, so the chest was literally just like flat across. There was no curves or form fitting to it. So I ended up needing to use my heat gun to heat form it a little bit. I did not end up filming this part actually because I had to use both hands to heat it and then like hold it together to form its shape, and then on top of all of that I was wearing a mask because those fumes you get when you heat form plastic, it's toxic, super toxic, so make sure you're doing it in a well ventilated area if you are messing with that. But yeah, so I wasn't gonna film all that mess. Moving on to the buttons, I used the Dritz cover button kit with the help of Tango, of course, and began this tedious yet oddly satisfying process. It comes with a template for you to cut out your fabric of choice, and then you just follow the instructions on the back. I've actually explained this whole process in a previous video, which I will link or make a little card thing above if you do want to check that out. But yeah, here I will just show you how it's done. Also, since I pick and chew at my nails, I wasn't able to use my thumb to punch in the button without it hurting. So I just used my wooden clapper. It's a really nice alternative if you have weak or injured hands, to be honest. All right, look how cute these buttons look. I did that another 17 times and got my little hoard of matching buttons for my dress. I hand sewed them on while watching some true crime, and it was honestly very lovely. The last thing that I had to do was make a better cape to replace this sad little one that came with the armor. I took a last-minute trip to the thrift store and found this curtain for $5. It matched nicely with the armor and dress, so I went for it. I also had this fake leather on hand too, so I cut out the original cape to use as a template. I pinned the fake leather right sides together using Wonder Clips. After sewing, I cut down the extra seam allowance to reduce the bulk. I was going to top stitch around the edges, but I totally forgot, and the photo shoot was the next day, so it just didn't happen. Now, let's move on to the curtain. I cut out the lining, put that fabric aside for another day, then laid out my gold fabric into a nice rectangle. I sewed along the sides and the bottom. I serged the top and hand sewed the gathering stitch since the fabric was way too thick for my machine to gather. Once I gathered it, I fit it into the fake leather piece and struggled to guide it under my machine. But I did it. I also used a walking foot to help the leather actually guide through. The cape at this point is done, but it does still need to be attached to the armor. And since the curtain fabric is so heavy, I wasn't able to use Velcro or snaps or magnets. So to make it really secure, I ended up just threading some cording through the drill holes that I had made and sewed it through the fake leather parts of the cape. And it, once I tied it off, it fit extremely well and it held up. And so yeah, at this point, everything was now complete. And it's time to show you guys my swordtember look. I had so much fun doing an on-location shoot with my good friend Big Willie Isms, and I'm so proud of myself for completing this project in a week. It was a lot of work, but it was a spur-of-the-moment passion project, and those tend to make me feel the happiest. Click the subscribe button and bell notification if you'd like to keep seeing more from me. You can also support my work directly through Patreon, where you can get early access and bonus content, plus rewards, while also helping me afford new materials and tools to continue creating. If you'd like to chat and hang out more with me, you can tune into my Twitch live streams. I'm live every week, usually on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you again so much for watching, and especially to making it to the end of the video. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope you take good care of yourselves, inhale some fresh air, and if you're able, treat yourself to a nice little snack this week. Take care, everybody. I will see you next time. Bye.
And a special shout out to all of my patrons, especially those in the Fabulous Flower Power tier. Thank you Arcal, Blackora77, Brad Shelton, Jamie, Henrik Matson, John Fillers, Gamer Productions 116, Eric Bolanos, Mr. Borland. Thank you guys so much.